Thank you for joining the Reverend Dr. Sean Michael Greener, radio host, national pastor, author, and speaker for Sundays with Dr. Sean. Hold on tight. Here comes the truth.
Well, thank you, fake audience. You're the best fake audience I've ever had. I mean, you guys are incredible. Clapping for exactly 12 seconds. Couldn't be a more perfect amount of time to clap. Couldn't have asked for better if I programmed it in myself. Well, thank you so much for joining us. You've reached the Collision of Faith and Politics and Sundays with Dr. Sean and all the other shows that we do. This is NOTFlix. And remember the series we're doing from my book, The Bible Summary for Real People. And so if you go to Amazon and you put that in the search bar, it will pop right up. And I have two books there, Excellence Killed the Church, How Mediocrity is Destroying America. And then my latest book, The Bible Summary for Real People. I would sure love for you to pick it up if you don't have it. If you have it and you haven't done a review, please think about doing a review. So we're going to get started. We're all the way in. We're full on in. Let's get her done. So, book of the Bible. We're at Obadiah, right? And I said that I really wish that was my name because, you know, it's just a cool name. I just think Obadiah is a cool name. Just bottom line. It's really, really cool. Anyway, what does it mean? Obadiah means servant of the Lord. The author was probably Obadiah, truth be told. And I feel like I would like the name Obadiah for me. I could sell it. You know, I couldn't sell a tattoo. People would be like, why do you have a tattoo? You're stupid. You're not cool enough for a tattoo. But I think I could sell the name Obadiah. I think I could. My name could be my nickname. You like everybody's nicknames. Obi or Oba. You know, I think it'd be... Not oboe, that's an instrument. So, but Obi maybe. Anyway, as far as when it was written, we don't know. Uncertain, possibly 605 to 586. We say uncertain. We think we're pretty close on that, but we think we don't have anything really locking that down. So we're guessing at that, but it's a pretty good guess. Now, this is a book you can read in about 10 minutes, depending on how fast you read. Why? Because there's only one chapter. Yes, only one chapter. You could read an entire book of the Bible in just one day, maybe even an hour if you're an average reader, or 10 minutes if you're a fast reader. So who was the audience? Who was the audience? Well, the Edomites and God's people. Now, what is Edom? Edom was an ancient kingdom in Transjordan located between Moab to the northeast, the Arabah to the west, and the Arabian Desert to the south and east. And most of its former territory is now divided between Israel and Jordan. So that gives you an idea of where on the map that is. So it's pretty cool. It's a really, really neat place. The purpose of the writing, God's faithfulness to his people, would be revealed in the devastation of Edom for being so cruel to Judah. This book is the account of that declaration. Now, very little happens in the Bible that is unrelated and not contiguous with other parts of the Bible. And at least for me, it's always some sort of fascinating and instructive way. If you've ever, I don't know what kind of Bible you have. If you don't have a Bible and you can't afford a Bible, I will get you a Bible and send it to you free of charge. But if you have a Bible, I don't know which one you like or which one you read, but there is a really cool Bible called the Thompson Chain Reference. And it's in different translations, but the chain reference is anywhere something is mentioned in the Bible, you have a list of the verses, and you can go on this hunt, you know, where you go from this thing to that thing to this thing to that thing. It's really pretty cool. So I would recommend that if you want to really dig in and get to know the Bible, where stuff is and all that. It's really a cool thing. Anyway, this is certainly the case with Obadiah, in that the book of Obadiah, because it's connected. It connects to so many things. Really fascinating. It's just cool. I just think the Bible's a really, really cool, and not just because I'm a Bible geek, but it just really is. I mean, as far as what it really is, to tell you the truth, what it really is a very comprehensive library. You know, It's a very comprehensive library of books. Really, really awesome. So anyhow, I say all that to say this, that like for instance with the rifts between Esau and Jacob over the Red Stew, remember that? And the refused passage to the Promised Land. Everything's tied together. Edom would be destroyed because of their debauchery and misplaced pride over the demise of Israel at the hands of other countries, while Edom really sat silently by. Really, they allowed their brother nation and tribe to fall, and then they gloated about it. So remember from a minute ago what Edom is, where it is? Well, Edom was an ancient kingdom in Transjordan, located between Moab to the northeast and Arabah to the west, and the Arabian Desert, like I said before, to the south and east. Most of its former territory is divided now between Israel and Jordan. So that gives you a real strong picture of where it is, what it's about, all that stuff. So Edom thought it would be secure because of its mountain outposts, and the Edomites, they flouted what they perceived as security before a holy God. And you know what would happen is they would systematically fall to Israel as Israel prospered greatly once they came in line and obeyed God, and Edom then fell into obscurity. So the thing is, you got to think about this. He restored Israel. God restored Israel. They messed up for a long time, but God restored them. And when God restored them, everything changed. You've heard of Israel, but you've never heard of Edom. Anyway, they were arrogant. They were disloyal, violent toward their brother Israel. It was really sick and sad, truthfully. Ultimately, we're all reminded to be loyal, faithful, and humble, lest we fall as Edom fell. And you know what's interesting here? Edom's demise reveals judgment to come against any nation who mistreats Israel. Though we know God punishes in accordance to their violations against him, we also know that the punishment is severe. Edom was a traitor to Israel, and they celebrated Israel's losses and by drinking and dancing. Yet that joyful laughter would soon turn to death and tears, because our God is a just God. He's the just God. Israel is restored at God's command as Edom falls. The Lord has spoken, and thus what is prophesied will come to pass. So that did happen. So I want to talk to you real quick also about Jonah, the book of Jonah. Jonah was written by Jonah, the son of Amittai. It was written between 783 BC and 753 BC. There are only 4 chapters. Only 4 chapters. Israel and all people to follow. That was the audience. Israel and all people to follow. Now that's a little bit different. Normally I'll say, oh, it was written to this kingdom or that kingdom or the northern kingdom, the southern kingdom. It was written to Judah. It was written to all of Israel. It was written to such and such. This is very specific. And then I'll say, I always do say this, not everything is written to us. Can we benefit from it? Can we learn from it? Can we apply some truths? Sure we can. But you know what? This one specifically was indeed written to Israel, but also all people to follow. Only God, this is the purpose of the writing, only God can bring salvation to anyone who repents of their sins and return to him. Now, Jonah to me is a lot like me. Initially when God called me into the ministry, I have to tell you, I didn't want to go. I didn't want to do it. And look, Jonah hated the Ninevites and didn't want to go to them because of his hatred for the very people to whom he was called to minister. Now, I don't want you to think that the similarity is that I don't like my audience, that I don't like my congregation, that I don't like when people call me to preach, that I don't like the audience that I'm preaching to. No, I love them. I'm excited to go. But Jonah, it's such a thing, if you read it and you're like, wait a second, what did he hate so much about him? The issue is, for me, I can just answer this because I can answer for me, I most often don't fancy myself as a suitable minister of the gospel. You see, I know all my hurts, habits, and hang-ups. And if I were to choose someone, if I were in the position to choose, like I was God, and I was, okay, who am I going to choose to represent me and to preach my gospel? Well, it wouldn't be me. I wouldn't choose me. Ultimately, the mission we're called to is the will of God for our lives. If we don't comply, God will get our attention the easy way, or you know what? He'll get it the hard way. Jonah chose the hard way, which involved a really big fish. Now, I don't care if it was a whale. I don't care what it was. Who cares what it is? Bottom line is, he lived inside that fish. God got his attention, and God will get our attention. And really what matters is this: God will use whatever means necessary to either gain compliance, or we'll swim with the sharks or whales or whatever of disobedience and judgment. When we're disobedient to God, the other people in the boat, that is our lives, will surely cast us out, because the storm that God often sends to get our attention throws waves in the laps of those who have to watch the penalty come upon us at the hand of an holy God. Eventually Jonah, he was called the popular prophet. Eventually Jonah reluctantly did obey God, and in so doing, Jonah gave the gift of salvation knowledge, the gift of saving knowledge, and in addition to coming into compliance, the people of Nineveh came to compliance, and guess what? They came into God's blessings and favor. Jonah wanted to die, though, because God showed his favor upon the repentant people of Nineveh. And Jonah hated that, so much so, he said he'd rather die than have God's mercy shown upon the people of ancient Mosul, Iraq. That's Nineveh's Mosul, Iraq. God gave the retreating Jonah shade for his head, and God's lessons are perfect in that perfection, Jonah learned that God is indeed perfect and compassionate, even though we are not. God is a God of second chances. We might take a look at the end of the book of Jonah. It won't take you long to get there because there's only 4 chapters. So the Tree of Life version, chapter 4, verse 2. So he prayed to Adonai and said, "Please, Lord, was not this what I said when I was still in my own country? That's what I anticipated, fleeing to Tarshish. For I knew that you are a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger and full of kindness, and relenting over calamity. So please, Adonai, take my soul from me, because better is my death than my life." Yet Adonai said, "Is it good for you to be so angry?" Now Jonah would he would rather literally die than to have the people he didn't want to preach to in the first place, who heard the message God told him that he reluctantly delivered. They listened, they heeded the message, yet Jonah would rather they be burned up in God's wrath than to be saved by turning around and obeying God's commands. Jonah wasn't unlike many of us, where we want people to pay. We want people to pay rather than change their path and receive the mercy and salvation of a just God. I heard a pastor say once, and I believe he was quoting another pastor who once read, "The consequences of a calloused heart is a complaining mouth." Philippians 2:14-15 really highlights a very important point. Do everything without grumbling or arguing, so that you might be blameless and innocent, children of God in the midst of a crooked and twisted generation. Among them you shine as lights in the world, holding fast to the word of life, so that I may boast in the day of the Messiah that I did not run or labor in vain. Without grumbling or arguing, everything without grumbling and arguing. Christians, we can't do one thing most often without grumbling or arguing. And I'm guilty too. Look at the tail end of verse 15, by the way. Among them you shine as lights in the world. You know what? That convicts me, because sometimes I feel like I'm as dim as a 15-watt LED light. They're dim as all get out. Yet my precious mother, whose homegoing was back in September, she was very nearly 1,000 candle power bright torch in this world. This was evidenced by the huge crowd of people to see that little old 89-year-old woman. And what a send-off. It was amazing. I've heard it said, everybody likes to be viewed as a servant until they get treated like a servant. I've also heard it said, usually I say it when people express sympathy at me being terminally ill, everyone wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Jonah makes me think that perhaps more people in this modern, natural world would come to Christ if we actually didn't think somehow they have hell coming to them. This is tantamount to the folks that find a super great quiet country place on farmland near the woods and ocean and mountains, and as soon as the last nail gets driven into their home, they want all development to stop. The last nail, the last shingle, boom, we want it to stop. I got my house. You build yours somewhere else as long as it's not here. And, as it relates to our faith, I got my salvation and redemption. You get yours some other way. But you know what? There is no other way. It cracks me up and it convicts me at the same time how Jonah so suddenly ends. The book of Jonah ends so suddenly, but the way that it ends, it's just amazing. Verse 9, then God said to Jonah, is it good for you to be so angry about the plant? It is, he said. I am angry enough to die. But Adonai said, you have pity on that plant for which you did no labor or make it grow, that appeared overnight and perished overnight. So shouldn't I have pity on Nineveh, the great city that has in it more than 120,000 people who don't know their right hand from their left, as well as many animals. You know, I love it that God specifically identifies the animals as worth protecting. I support that. I like that. But I want to say this to you, and I think it's important to say this. Sometimes there's been a saying that, you know, something about the one, he goes after the great shepherd, the good shepherd goes after the one. He'll leave the 99 to go after the one. And, you know, people lament that. They say, well, that just doesn't make sense. To leave 99 sheep, 99 lambs, 99 innocent, dependent people or animals to go after one lost one. Yeah, it's easy to lament that until you're the one that he's come after. And that's big news, folks. We have a God that will come after us. He'll never relent, never gives up. Thank God for that. Listen, today is a great day to be alive. Something sacred hangs in the balance of every moment. Avraham Heschel said that, and I believe it's true today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you taking the 16 minutes and 17 minutes or however long it took. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Listen to us on Facebook. We're on Facebook. Look under Sean Michael Greener, SHAWN. Follow us on Twitter at The Ninja Pastor. Follow us on Instagram at The Ninja Pastor. And also Dr. Sean Greener, DrSHAWNGREENER.com. Follow us on YouTube, The Good Doctor. Where else are we? We're all over the place. And also follow me on Spreaker, where you're listening now. Click on like or follow. I can't remember which it is, or subscribe, whatever it is. And we really appreciate it if you do that. No doubt about it. Remember, if you have my book, please leave a review on Amazon. We really do appreciate it. God bless you and keep you. Take good care, and we'll talk to you very, very soon.
Thank you for joining Dr. Sean today. Please follow Dr. Sean at www.drseangreener.com and on social media at facebook.com/smgreener, Twitter at The Ninja Pastor, and on Instagram at The Ninja Pastor. If you would like to support Dr. Sean's ministry and send Bibles around the world, don't forget to hit the donate page on drseangreener.com. Or go to paypal.me/Dr. Sean Greener to invest in spreading the Word of God to the world. And please download our free apps to listen to our Spreaker radio show. Thank you again for listening, and don't forget to share.